So we will be discussing about carbohydrate metabolism. So we will tackle about carb digestion and also absorption of these carbohydrates in our body as well as different metabolism. So this is the outline of our topic, carbohydrate digestion and absorption, glycolysis and gluconeogenesis, glycogenesis and glycogenolysis, the Cori cycle, and lastly, the pentose phosphate pathway. So next of our topic is about carbohydrate digestion. So how those foods like rice, bread are being digested in our body to produce energy. So first, digestion starts with our mouth. Okay, so food is masticated in the oral cavity and turn it into bolus upon entering our esophagus. Okay, so it means that sa Tagalog, kapag tayo ay ngumunguya na pagkain, that is the definition for masticated or mastication. So sa Tagalog, kumunguya. So we are turning our food that we eat with a mixture, of course, of a saliva, and it is called as what we call a bolus. So our mouth has the salivary amylases that target starches, which will hydrolyze or it will cut the glycosidic linkage of our larger molecules such as the starch and glycogen to produce smaller polysaccharides and disaccharides such as the maltose. So there's a minimal absorption as food is swallowed quickly. So then after a mouth, then esophagus, it will go down to our stomach. So your salivary amylase in your mouth, it will get inactivated because of our stomach acidity. So your salivary amylase is only present in your mouth because it has a optimum pH of around 7. While as our stomach's pH is all around 1 to 2. So therefore, it will inactivated in our stomach. Hindi mabubuhay. Enzymes, remember our enzymes are highly sensitive to pH. So it has optimum pH. It will work best at a certain pH. And below that or beyond that, they will be inactivated or denatured. Okay? And yan. So next is that your no carbohydrate digesting enzyme are present in stomach because of its stomach acidity. Tandaan, your stomach has hydrochloric acid, which is highly acidic. So it reacts with hydrochloric acid in the stomach as well as other enzymes and is turned into what we call a chyme. So some amino acid absorptions takes place here inside the stomach. So remember class, chyme, it is what we call the partially digested food. Next, after the stomach, we have our small intestine where it is already the site where the digestion of carbohydrate happens. It is because of the presence of the enzymes such as our pancreatic amylase, which targets polysaccharide to break them into smaller disaccharide maltose. And in our diet, there is actually little monosaccharide present in our food. So the carbohydrate present in our food are a larger molecules such as disaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. That's why these carbohydrates needs endoglycosidases. So what is the function of this enzyme? It is the one that hydrolyzes these carbohydrates, these larger carbohydrates into monosaccharides, which are the final products such as glucose, galactose that can be um, absorbed by our body or the cell of the small intestine. So these are called the maltase, targets the maltose to be converted to 2 units of glucose. Your sucrase that targets the sucrose carb to form into glucose and fructose. We have your lactase that converts naman the lactose to glucose and of course galactose. So these glucose, galactose and fructose can already be absorbed by the cell of our intestine. So different sugars have a different route of absorption. So pwedeng via the bloodstream, pwedeng intestinal villi, at pwede rin namang protein carrier. So we have here, carbohydrate digestion products are absorbed into the bloodstream to the intestinal wall. So routes of absorption, such as the intestinal villi, are rich in blood capillaries into which the monosaccharides are actively transported. Protein carriers as well that mediate the passage of the monosaccharide through the cell membrane. Galactose and fructose are converted to products of glucose metabolism. First metabolic pathway for carbohydrate is the breakdown of sugar or the glucose, which is called as the glycolysis pathway. So what are the main points of glycolysis? So it is the metabolic pathway in which it is converting your glucose into two molecules. Remember, dalawa, two molecules of a pyruvate molecule, which is this pyruvate molecule is a 3-carbon chain or a C3 molecule. So it produces as well as the ATP production or our energy, the adenosine triphosphate, and as well as the NADH, which are reduced coenzymes. So the conversion of your glucose to pyruvate molecule, it will occur in 2 stages. There are actually 10 steps divided by into 2 stages. The first stage or the first 5 steps is the 6-carbon energy investment. So here in the first 5 steps, in which phosphorylated forms of intermediate are synthesized at the expense of ATP. Here we are having an expense of ATP. Gumagastos tayo ng ATP, therefore, it could process the glycolysis pathway. And the last 5, okay, so the next stage, which are the last 5 steps, is called as the 3-carbon or the energy production stages. So it is already an energy production. So these subsequent steps generates energy. So these steps will produce already ATP. Okay, so in glycolysis, we have a stage where we have an expense of ATP, gumagastos ng ATP. We also have a stage where it is already producing ATP or the energy production state. And in metabolic pathways, there are reactions that are known as committed steps. Many reactions in metabolic pathways are reversible. And you have to note that committed steps are irreversible reactions. And usually, it will involve addition or removal of the phosphate groups or what we call the CoA. So this is the overview of the glycolysis pathway. So from steps 1 to 5, this is where there is an expense of an ATP. Okay. And 6 to 10, we are already producing ATP. So from a 6-carbon chain glucose, we will producing 2 molecules ng isang pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon chain molecule, pyruvate. Let's go to the step 1 of your glycolysis, which is the formation of the glucose 6-phosphate from its reactant, which is a glucose. So glucose is being converted to our glucose 6-phosphate. This reaction is generated by the enzyme hexokinase. So, at the expense of our ATP. So there is an expense here in step number 1, where ATP is simultaneously converted to adenosine diphosphate, ATP. So, at the expense of ATP, gagastos tayo. So, dito makukuha ng isang phosphate group in ATP that will be attached to our glucose unit, forming here, okay, this is the attached phosphate group. Where do we get the phosphate? It came from the ATP. So, it will become a glucose 6-phosphate. So, the symbol P, it just means that it is a shorthand notation for the phosphate group. Okay, so next of our step is the isomerization of the glucose 6-phosphate into fructose 6-phosphate. It is catalyzed by the enzyme phosphoglucoisomerase. So, this reaction is reversible and it is not a rate limiting or regulated step. So, this one is just changing the structure. When we say isomerization, there is a change within the structure. So, it changes your glucose 6-phosphate from a pyrene structure. Remember, pyrene is a 6-membered ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It will become a furan ring. So, mula sa 6, naging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-membered ring. So, our next step, which is step number 3, now we have a fructose 6-phosphate. It will be phosphorylated again by the enzyme phosphofructokinase to become a fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. So this is a phosphorylation reaction again. That's why we need an expense of ATP. So where do we get our phosphate group? Of course, in the ATP or the energy. Then one of the phosphate group in ATP will be attached to our fructose 6-phosphate. That's why we will have another phosphate group in the structure. And your ATP will become an adenosine diphosphate. Okay? Mula sa chai, of course, nabawasan. Naging 2 na lang. That's why it become adenosine diphosphate. Okay, this is a fructose 1,6-bis. Bis means dalawang phosphate group. That's why you have 1 and another 2 phosphate group. Step number 4 is the cleavage of the fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. So, cleaving, or on another term, splitting our fructose 1,6-bisphosphate into 2 molecules that are C3 or 3-carbon chain. So your fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is being cleaved or split by the enzyme. So nagka-catalyze dyan is the aldolase into structures such as the dihydroxyacetone phosphate and the glyceraldehyde G-phosphate. So again, this is a reversible reaction. So this is not a regulated step. Okay, so here we have 2 molecules or 2 products, the DHAP, So here we have 2 molecules, the dihydroxyacetone phosphate and the glyceraldehyde phosphate. So G3P is the one that will continue in the glycolysis pathway. Your DHAP should be converted first to G3P. Okay, so it is also an isomerization reaction. So there is a rearrangement within the structure, and your DHAP will be converted to G3P in using our enzyme triose phosphate isomerase. So as we can see here, your carbonyl, okay, the hydroxyl part, there is a change in the position. So making your DHAP become a G3P molecule. Now, you have 2 molecules of 3GP. Okay. The first one came from the cleavage of the fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This is the one molecule of the G3P. The other G3P came from the dihydroxyacetone, where it is converted to the G3P. So therefore, you have two molecules of G3P that will undergo the step 6 of glycolysis. So your two molecules of G3P will be catalyzed by the enzyme glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase to produce a 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. A molecule of a reduced coenzyme NAD+, and the phosphate group are used in this reaction. So the carboxylate ion and the phosphate group are joined together. So you can see here there is an added phosphate group. So therefore, we form an 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. For the seventh step of the glycolysis, this is the synthesis of a 3-phosphoglycerate from our 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So by the enzyme, it is catalyzed by the enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase. Here it is already an ATP producing step. So the phosphate from the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate will be transferred from ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So therefore, we will have the adenosine triphosphate. Okay, so this process is just transferring the phosphate group from the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate to our ADP, and with the help of a magnesium, it is become an ATP and a 3-phosphoglycerate. So remember, class, is that one thing that we have to remember as well, in the step 6, we produce two molecules of G3P. Therefore, here we produces two molecules of the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate that will undergo now on the step number 7. Therefore, there are two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate that will produces two molecules of the 3-phosphoglycerate and two molecules of ATP as well. Of course, there are two molecules of ADP that is used in this process. So now we have two molecules ng 3-phosphoglycerate and two molecules of ATP. So your step 8 is a formation of a 2-phosphoglycerate from our 3-phosphoglycerate with the use of an enzyme phosphoglyceromutase. So there are two molecules of 3-phosphoglycerate that will undergo isomerization process again, whereas the phosphate group is being adjusted from the carbon number 3 to our carbon number 2. It will become a 2-phosphoglycerate. Again, there are two molecules of 2-phosphoglycerate that is being produced. So these two molecules of our 2-phosphoglycerate will be catalyzed now by our enzyme enolase. So this is an alcohol dehydration reaction whereas alcohol, OH group, and a hydrogen is being removed in our structure. It will become a phosphoenol pyruvate, two molecules ng phosphoenol pyruvate, and of course, a water molecule. Okay, so last of our step is the formation of the pyruvate. So from the two molecules of our PEP, or the phosphoenol pyruvate, it is catalyzed by the enzyme pyruvate kinase to become a pyruvate molecule. So here there is also a production of ATP. Okay, so it is a removal of a phosphate group, where the phosphate group being removed in the phosphoenol pyruvate will attach to our adenosine diphosphate, making it a adenosine triphosphate molecule. So we are producing here a 2-molecule pyruvate, okay, and 2 molecules of ATP as well. Okay, so as we can see here, this is a 3-carbon pyruvate molecule. So we have here 1, 2, 3 carbon chain of pyruvate. That's why it is a C3 molecule. So what are the steps that we have to remember? So in step 1, we have an expense of ATP. From the reaction of the glucose, it is converted to glucose 6-phosphate. There is an expense of 1 ATP. Steps number 3, there is also a expense from fructose 6-phosphate. Gumastos tayo to produce fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. But there are also production of ATP. So in the process of step number 7, there are 2 molecules of 3-phosphoglycerate that is being produced, as well as 2 molecules of ATP. And step number 10, the last step, there are 2 molecules of pyruvate that is being produced, as well as 2 molecules of ATP. So therefore, the net charge, of course, 4 minus the 2 expense, there is a net charge of 2 ATP in the glycolysis pathway. The other entry points in glycolysis. So both fructose and galactose are converted in the liver to intermediates that enters the glycolysis pathway. So entry of fructose into the glycolytic pathway involves phosphorylation of ATP to produce fructose 1-phosphate. And it is converted to glyceraldehyde. And it should be phosphorylated first before it enters glycolysis. While as dihydroxyacetone phosphate, it can enter glycolysis directly. So entry of galactose into the glycolytic pathway begins with its conversion of glucose 1-phosphate, which is then converted now to glucose 6-phosphate. So we have regulation in glycolysis. When we say regulation, if you remember the discussion in enzymes, so in enzymes here are being inhibited to lower the production or the process. So the regulations or regulatory enzymes are in step 1, 3, and 10. So in step 1, if you remember, it is a conversion of glucose to your glucose 6-phosphate by the enzyme hexokinase, and it is being inhibited by the glucose 6-phosphate inhibitors. So this one is a feedback inhibition. So kung maalala, in the enzyme discussions, feedback inhibition is where is the product inhibits the first reactions of the enzyme. So once there's enough products, sobrang daming glucose 6-phosphate, it will inhibit the enzyme hexokinase. So that is feedback inhibition. Next of the step 3 is the conversion of fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate by the phosphofructokinase. So this is another committed step, just like step number 1. And also, this step is very unique to glycolysis, okay? Because phosphofructokinase enzyme is an allosteric enzyme, as well as it is a key rate limiting step. So it is a rate limiting step. So it is the one, this enzyme is the one that regulates the pace of glycolysis. When we say rate limiting step, it is the lowest enzyme and it is irreversible. So this is the enzyme that determines how fast the whole glycolysis pathway will pursue. So again, your step number 3, phosphofructokinase is a key rate limiting step. So it is the one that regulates how fast, how slow the glycolysis pathway is. And it is being inhibited by high concentrations of ATP and as well as citrate. Next of the committed step is the step number 10, which is the conversion of the phosphoenol pyruvate to pyruvate and by the enzyme pyruvate kinase. It is inhibited by high amount of ATP concentrations as well. So, both of the step 3 and step 10 are both an allosteric enzymes. Okay, so there are different fates of pyruvate. So what will happen once your pyruvate is being produced? So there are three fates of pyruvate here. So pairing ethanol formation, it can also be undergo lactate formation, and it can also be converted to acetyl-CoA, and it will go to citric acid cycle electron transport chain, which is a further oxidation, and it will produce large amounts of ATP. So the first fate is the oxidation of the acetyl-CoA. So this will only happen in aerobic condition. So there is an oxygen-rich environment. So this is an introduction of the CoAsh, okay, to the pyruvate molecule, where CoAs is being attached to pyruvate and carboxyl is being removed. So you will have the acetyl-CoA, and the reduced NAD plus will become an NADH, and there will be, of course, carboxyl is being removed. You will have a carbon dioxide as a product. So your acetyl-CoA molecules are produced from pyruvate to enter now to the citric acid cycle. Most of your pyruvate formed during glycolysis is converted to acetyl-CoA for the energy production. So your oxidation, so here from the glycolysis converted to pyruvate. So your pyruvate will be converted to acetyl-CoA, and it will enter the citric acid cycle, and the produced NADH and FADH2 in citric acid cycle will enter the electron transport chain for energy, for a large amount of energy production. So on the other hand, we have the lactate fermentation. So this will only occur in anaerobic reduction of pyruvate to lactate. So there is an environment that is anaerobic. There is no presence of oxygen. So your pyruvate is being undergo reduction process. There's an addition of a hydrogen molecule to the pyruvate structure, therefore forming it a lactate. It is catalyzed by lactate dehydrogenase, and as well as NAD plus is being produced. And lastly is the ethanol fermentation. So this is an enzymatic anaerobic conversion of pyruvate to ethanol and carbon dioxide. So simple organisms to generate NAD plus through ethanol fermentation reaction. Ethanol fermentation, it will involve yeast, causes bread and related products to rise as a result of carbon dioxide bubbles being released during baking. So beer, wine, and other alcoholic drinks are produced by ethanol fermentation of the sugars in grain and fruit products. Okay, so what are the steps of our ethanol fermentation? So what happens during ethanol fermentation? So the process is what we call decarboxylation. From the word itself, remove, carboxyl, okay, it removes the carboxyl group on the structure. So your pyruvate undergoes decarboxylation to remove the carboxyl group. Hydrogen is being added in the process using the enzyme pyruvate decarboxylase. we will now have a product, acetaldehyde and carbon dioxide. And your acetaldehyde will undergo reduction process by the use of the NADH and a hydrogen atom. Hydrogen is being reduced or added to the acetaldehyde. So we will have an ethanol and an NAD plus as a final product. So for the energy yield in the completion of oxidation of glucose, NADH produced during step number 6 of glycolysis cannot directly participate in the electron transport chain. So mitochondria are impermeable to NADH and NAD+, and as well as glycerol 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate transport system shuttles electron from NADH but not the NADH itself across the outer membrane. Dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glycerol phosphate will freely cross the mitochondrial membrane, and the interconversion of shuttles the electron from, of course, NADH papunta FADH2. So what we have to remember that in the complete oxidation process, there are about 30 ATP that is being produced in the skeletal muscles as well as in the nerve cell. 26 are from the oxidative phosphorylation associated with the electron transport chain. Meron ng ETC dito in the process. 2 are from the oxidation of glucose to lactate. 2 are from the oxidation of glucose to ethanol. So, mula sa glycolysis, papunta sa citric acid cycle, papunta sa ating electron transport chain. And as well as from the glucose to lactate, glucose to ethanol, there are about 30 ATP for the complete oxidation ng glucose. So, and one thing that we remember that aerobic oxidation of glucose is 15 times more efficient in ATP production as compared to anaerobic lactate and ethanol process. So, mas mababa yung ATP na naproproduce. In heart and liver cells, there are about 30 molecules that are produced instead of the 30 glucose molecule. So if we have breakdown of glucose, we also have what we call building up of glucose. So it is called as a gluconeogenesis. From the word itself, genesis, it is building up. So gluconeogenesis is the building up of glucose using different non-carbohydrate starting materials for gluconeogenesis. So the starting materials that we could use could be pyruvate, lactate, glycerol, glucogenic amino acids that came from dietary protein hydrolysis or from the muscle protein during the starvation. So metabolic pathway by which glucose is synthesized again to the non-carbohydrate material. And you have to remember that gluconeogenesis and glycolysis are not the exact opposites. So there are reactions that are irreversible in each of the process. Magkaiba yung enzymes na ginamit. Okay, so again, there are some steps that are not in the glycolysis. Why? The reason usually given for this is that gluconeogenesis needs to bypass the energetically favorable or irreversible. So again, sinabi ko kanina, irreversible steps in glycolysis. So there are irreversible steps in glycolysis that will be bypassing gluconeogenesis. That's why they have a different enzyme in these irreversible reactions. So here in glycolysis is that pyruvate is being produced and it came from phosphoenol pyruvate. Your PEB converted to pyruvate, your enzyme is a pyruvate kinase that is an irreversible step, that is a committed step. So here in gluconeogenesis, the pyruvate is being converted first to oxaloacetate by the enzyme pyruvate carboxylase, and ATP and carbon dioxide is required along the process. Then your oxaloacetate will be catalyzed by the phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase, and GTP is required. Therefore, oxaloacetate is now formed to our phosphoenol pyruvate. And another one that is different to gluconeogenesis is the conversion of the fructose 1,6 bisphosphate to form the fructose 6 phosphate. It is catalyzed by the enzyme fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase, and no ATP is required. And lastly, conversion of the G6P or the glucose 6 phosphate to glucose, catalyzed now by the glucose 6 phosphatase, and no ATP is also required in this process. So these are the three different steps in gluconeogenesis that have different enzyme use from the glycolysis. So about 90% of gluconeogenesis are taking place in the liver. Conditions in which gluconeogenesis occurs is to replenish depleted liver glycogen stores, to convert lactate that is produced by the serous exercise back to glucose, to maintain blood glucose level when glycogen stores have been depleted. So pyruvate to glucose conversion requires an expenditures of 4 ATP and 2 GTP in the process. And gluconeogenesis occurs at the expense of other ATP-producing metabolic processes. So if our body has excess glucose and our body doesn't need, it can be stored in the form of glycogen, which is called as the glycogenesis or the building up of glycogen. So, this glycogenesis is the process of converting, of course, mula sa glucose, it will become a glycogen. And if you remember in our carbohydrate structure function discussion, glycogen is a branch of polymeric form of glucose. It is a storage form of carbohydrates in humans and as well as animals. In muscle, it is source of glucose for glycolysis. In liver tissue, it is the source of glucose required to maintain normal blood glucose levels. So again, this is the process of converting glucose to glycogen, where glucose in the blood exceeds the demand. Di natin kailangan, pero madaming na-produce na glucose. So therefore, glycogen is one form in which body fuel is stored for later use. Lalo na if we are having intermittent fasting or during starvation, it can be one of the sources, quick source of energy. Okay, first one is glucose is being converted to your glucose 6-phosphate, which we remember that this step is the first step of glycolysis. So from your glucose, it is converted to hexokinase. It will become a glucose 6-phosphate. So your glucose 6-phosphate will enter the glycogenesis pathway, where the G6P or the glucose 6-phosphate is converted to a G1P or the glucose 1-phosphate, catalyzed by enzyme phosphoglucomutase. So this enzyme is a mutase, so therefore it isomerizes or it changes the structure. So in this process, this enzyme isomerizes or transfer the structure of the hydroxyl group in change with the phosphate group. So mula sa G6P, it will become a glucose 1-phosphate. Okay, so then your glucose 1-phosphate will be converted to a UDP glucose or the uridine diphosphate glucose, where your enzyme is called as the UDP glucose pyrophosphorylase. So it removes 2-phosphate group, okay, from the uridine triphosphate or the UTP, and the uridine phosphate will be added to the glucose 1-phosphate. And we can see here we now have a combined structure, which is a uridine diphosphate, 2-phosphate group, and a glucose molecule. And of course, the 2-phosphate group that is being removed is a PPI molecule. And the newly formed UDP glucose will be attached to our forming glycogen chain. So, using the glycogen synthase. So, this process is more like pinagdudugtog-tungtong kada gawa ng UDP glucose. Therefore, we will be making a large molecule of a glycogen. And of course, UDP as a product. So, glucose unit of UDP glucose is attached to the end of the glycogen chain, and UDP is produced in the process. UDP reacts with ATP to form UTP and ATP. Adding one glucose unit to a glycogen chain requires investment of 2 ATP molecules. Okay, so if we have glycogenesis, building up of glycogen, we also have the glycogenolysis, which is the breaking down of glycogen. What are the two-step processes again? Phosphorylation of the glycogen, where one of the glucose unit is being removed and glycogen phosphorylase convert it to glucose 1-phosphate. And using the same enzyme, phosphoglucomutase is converted to glucose 6-phosphate, where it can enter now the glycolysis pathway to produce pyruvate and of course ATP. So this is the relationships among 4 of the common metabolic pathways that involve in glucose. So again, breakdown of glucose to form a pyruvate. And if there is a lack of glucose, your pyruvate can now be converted back to our glucose. So, and of course, if there is too much glucose in our blood or in our body, can be converted to glucose 6-phosphate and it will enter the glycogenesis pathway where we will have a form of glycogen, which is a storage for glucose. And it means of starvation, means of intermittent fasting or hardcore exercises depleted ang ating glucose level, it can be used and it can be broken down to glucose again. It will undergo glycogenolysis where it becomes a glucose 6-phosphate and the G6V can enter now again the glycolysis pathway where it produces pyruvate and ATP molecule. Now, your pyruvate can have 3 fates such as the lactate, acetyl-CoA, and of course, ethanol. So, we also have what we call the Cori cycle. We also have the Cori cycle where gluconeogenesis uses lactate as a source of pyruvate. Lactate is formed during strenuous exercise, again, anaerobic conditions. It diffuses from muscle cell into the bloodstream and it is being transported to the liver. So again, it is anaerobic condition na sosobrahan sa exercise. Nagkakaroon tayo ng mga muscle fatigue, nawawalan ng oxygen sa muscles natin. Therefore, we will have a lactate formation. And in here, Cori cycle, enzyme lactate dehydrogenase converts your lactate that are formed to pyruvate in the liver. Pyruvate is then converted to glucose via gluconeogenesis. The glucose enters the bloodstream and is transported in the muscles. So this is one also source of a pyruvate and glucose, which is the lactate. So why is recycle important? So this could prevent lactic acidosis during anaerobic conditions in the muscle. So para may silbi yung lactate natin, it can be converted back to pyruvate and glucose. So in lactate in the muscles, okay, so in our muscles, so lactate in our muscles is released into our blood and carried out inside our liver, where lactate is being processed to become pyruvate, and pyruvate undergoes gluconeogenesis. Therefore, we are forming a glucose molecule. Where your glucose now, again, passes through the blood and again the muscles, where glucose can be used in the glycolysis to convert it to pyruvate, and we will produce ATP. The last pathway or process is the pentose phosphate pathway, or what we call another term as the hexose monophosphate shunt. So the process pentose phosphate pathway is in which glucose 6-phosphate is used to produce NADPH, ribose 5-phosphate, and numerous other sugar phosphate. So again, your NADPH functions as a biochemical retardant and also produces what we call here, this pathway, produces ribose 5-phosphate, which is required for the biosynthesis ng nucleotide, ang ribose 5-phosphate, and as well as other sugar phosphate. So, this process occurs in the cytosol of our cell. So, when ATP demand is high, the pathway continues to its end product, which it will enter what we call glycolysis. So, when ADPH demand is high, intermediates are recycled to glucose 6-phosphate, and further NADPH is produced. It will help generate ribose 5-phosphate for nucleic acid and coenzyme production. So there are two stages. First one is the oxidative stage. It involves 3 steps through which glucose 6-phosphate is being converted to ribulose 5-phosphate. So this is a dehydrogenation process where we use a enzyme glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So it catalyzes the irreversible oxidation of the G6P to ribulose 5-phosphate. So this is a regulated at the G6P reaction. Next is the non-oxidative stage. And again, in the first step, ribulose 5-phosphate is isomerized now to ribose 5-phosphate. So, using the enzyme phosphofentose isomerase, your ribulose 5-phosphate is isomerized to become ribose 5-phosphate. So again, as we can see here, ribulose 5-phosphate is a C double bond OR group that is a ketone. And it is being isomerized, it becomes an aldehyde structure or the C double bond OH. Okay, so that will be the topic for our carbohydrate metabolism. So we have discussed about digestion, absorption, and routes of absorption in carbohydrates, as well as different pathways such as the glycolysis, gluconeogenesis, glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, and as well as the Cori cycle where it is using lactate to produce pyruvate, and of course, the pentose phosphate pathway.